Give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to the Akim and the four winds preaching the truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever. The hopeful elect, Shalom to the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, you Akwathium, listen and learning under your husband or under your spiritual leader, in meekness and in silence, and you've come back to the fold. Shalom. This is your brother Aram Yahawada with the lesson, and I seen another brother do a lesson on saying that we're still in Rome. So this is still Rome, and this is a little story on Gad, and at the time of our Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? Like as Christ is his last name, right? When he was a Judite, so his last name would have been Yahawada, or or maybe even going back to the Davidical line or something, right? But just to get to it though, this is Supreme Court hands defeat to Native Americans. See, and then at that time, our Lord and Savior was on the scene. Who was ruling? Rome, right? But Gad wasn't there. Gad was here in America. But we're going to prove that you're in the modern day Rome, the second leg of Rome, right? And now Gad, or I should say the Northern Kingdom, but Gad is getting their taste of these Edomites, man, these Idumeans, right? Says a defeat to the Native American tribe in Oklahoma, right? It says 3 years ago, Native Americans in Oklahoma rejoiced. So they supposedly won 3 years ago in court when the Supreme Court ruled that the eastern half of Oklahoma is on tribal land. That's tribal land. That was an agreement. But we know about the fork-tongued devil, right? And that the state could not bring criminal prosecution for crimes on Indian land without consent of the Indian tribes. But Wednesday, the court narrowed that decision. Yeah, prompting an angry dissent from Judge Neil Gorsuch, an author of the 2019 decision and a ardent proponent of Indian rights. So I don't know. It basically, I looked up this word. It basically means he got angry. arrogant. I mean, he's angry. He's an advocate. He was angry, which I think was all fake. You know, to be honest. But now God is on this side. They could see they're gonna have to go through. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be oppressed together this time. Yeah, this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. O king, so this is Daniel speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and basically he's breaking down the dream of all the beasts, these empires that want to rule before the end of the world. So thus, O king, saw it and behold, which means looked, feast your eyes, look, pay attention, a great image. This great image was brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and from thereof was terrible. This image, the image's head, image's head was of fine gold. At his breast and his arms, breast and arms silver, right? His belly and his thighs were brass, and his legs of iron, and his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thus saw it till that stone was cut out without hands, which is Yahushai, which smote the image upon his feet, that where the iron and clay, and broke them to pieces, right? So it's telling these empires. Verse 2, it said, Daniel spake and said, I saw in the vision by night, and behold, which means feast your eyes, look, pay attention, the four winds of the heavens strove up the great sea, which is talking about people, right? And four great beasts, which is talking about nations, came up from the sea, which is amongst the people, diverse one from another. So different nations were going to rule at particular times. So the first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings, which is talking about the Assyrians, which are the Babylonians, right? The Syrian Babylonian rule, right? They rule, Babylonians ruled for some time, failed, and Assyrians, but they're pretty much the same people. They ruled. It says, I beheld, which means look, pay attention, till the wings were plucked off, right? Dealing with, now that's when the Babylonians ruled, were plucked off and lifted up from the earth. So then the Babylonians ruled and made from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given unto it, right? Dealing with the Babylonian captivity, because it's talking about heart goes into lob, mind, and the Lord did say the first one had had the golden head, so it had more. It was better than all the other empires, right? So mind, lob said basically they had wisdom. They had more wisdom than the rest of us. And it says, and I beheld another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it rushed up, rose up, rised up, or something like that. It raised up itself one on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of both the teeth of it, which is dealing with the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Because you had the Medo-Persian Empire, because they basically pretty much ruled simultaneously together, right? And it's and I think it was the Persians that ruled first, right? I think it was the Persians that ruled first, but then the Medes were a lot more dangerous. I guess the Persians were afraid of the Medes, so they basically allowed them to share their empire, right? Basically, right? Because that forgot that one king. He was afraid of the other Medo-Persian king. Can't remember his name, but yeah. And they said thus unto it, rise, devour much flesh, as this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. Right, so that goes into what the Greek, right, going into what's his name, Alexander the Great, because he wore a leopard hat. He wore leopard skin upon his head, and he was the first to rule of Grecia after they conquered the actual original Greeks, because his father was a Macedonian, which is the Edomites, right? And but yeah, that goes into him, and it goes into his 4 generals, because he was going to die, and 4 generals came up after him. After this, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, right, dealing with the Roman Empire. It was a dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it was and it had great iron, right? Dealing with the Roman Empire, teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stumped the residue of the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse, right? Dealing with their democracy, because they were making it seem like they didn't have a king, and you so-called voted for your king, and you vote for these different things like the basically the way um, Greece was doing it, way Greece was doing it, but Rome really made it like that because it was more widespread, right? And then it says, so you're dealing with the Roman Empire at this point, and the residue was on the feet, and it was diverse from all the beast, right? Dealing with their so-called politics, where before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, there you go, 10 horns, and and it says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, which is America, before them, where whom there were three, right? Dealing with Spain, Spain, France, and England, right? England, Spain, France, and England, right? There were three of the first horns plucked up by the root. Yeah, that'd be Spain, France, and England. And behold, in these horns were eyes like the eyes of men, and the mouth spake great things, right? So, yeah, this is Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore, the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, right, dealing with the Greek Empire, dealing with was Alexander the Great, because he conquered Greece from the actual Greeks, which were dark men, right? They were Japhetic dark men, and he conquered it, and basically slapped the name on himself and called themselves Greeks, but they're known as the Greeks now, you know. Um, yeah, the great horn was broken, and for it came up fourth noticeable fourth noticeable ones, right? Dealing with Alexander the Great, because he died and he had four generals come up underneath him, right? Noticeable ones towards the four winds of heaven, and that's when they said wickedness increased at that time when you go into the Apocrypha, and off and out of one of them came four little horns, yeah, which wax exceedingly great, which wicked, towards the south, towards the east, and towards the pleasant land, which must be like towards Israel, pleasant land, and it waxed great, even the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground, which you're talking about the Israelites, and stomped upon them. Stomped upon the Israelites, yea, and he magnified himself, dealing with Esau, Edom, even to the prince of the host, which is Yahushai. The Romans killed Yahushai, and by him the daily sacrifice. Right here you go, going into when they 70 A.D. when they destroyed the temple. By him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. Right, dealing with the Roman Empire. Because you're dealing with this thing, it said that it was it's four beasts, then it stood on its feet like a man. So a man has two legs. So now you're talking about how the thighs were, or was it brass, which was dealing with the Greek Empire. But going into the Roman Empire, it was iron, and then going into the latter of the Roman Empire, when you're dealing with the feet, but then you have two legs and you have 2 feet. So now you're dealing with America is that other leg with the other feet that's miry clay and iron, partly clay and partly strong and partly broken, right? Because even then they mixed things with the money, because their money was it was deflating, or was losing its value, because they were putting tin or something in the money in the Roman Empire, which proved that you're in the second leg of Rome now, which is America, because they're doing the same thing, right? Matter of fact, what it says, what was that? And I'll just go to 12. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgressions, and it cast down the truth to the ground, right? And it practiced and prevailed. Prospered, it's like it. Right? Because you got to deal with that, especially in the Greek Empire. They were teaching Israelites. Well, actually, they were passing laws. They were passing laws that it was illegal to call yourself a Jew. Right? All the way into the Roman Empire, which you're dealing with today. Then I heard one saint speak to another saint, said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgressions and of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot, right? Because matter of fact, it even tells you that um, in the New Testament. Yeah, so this is Luke 21:24. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Who are they? Talking about the Israelites, right? And it said that it was talking about the saints. And the only way you could be a saint is to be an Israelite. So it's talking about those saints shall be fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive, right? Going into slavery in the Roman Empire. Yeah, through Titus and Vespasian, right? We got led away captive through Titus, right? To Pompey, was it Pompey, Julius? I forgot what Caesar, but basically they led us away captive, right, in 70 A.D. And this is basically what it's talking about, right? It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, right? Which is talking about all these other nations, until the times of the Gentile be fulfilled. And that time it's about up. Because we're rising up, we're remembering who we are, right? A 1895 coin, which says the United States of America on it. And this is way before even the Treaty of Rome. Because what was the Treaty of Rome? It wasn't until what, the 50s? Right? So they know a long time ago. Right? So it's a dime that's supposed to be worth 2,500. And obviously this guy definitely looks like a Roman to me, right? This is the U.S. Dime, and no one made them do it, right? Talking about the 1895, so no one made them do that. And obviously these people are Romans, right? Self-explanatory. Chapter 12, verse 15. Shall we give or shall we not give? Next, should they pay tribute to Caesar? I'm just going straight to the point. But he, knowing their hypocrisies, said unto them, why tempt ye me? Bring me a penny, that I may see it. And they brought it. And he said unto them, whose image and superscription? Right? Question mark. Who image is this? Whose superscription is this? And who image is that? Saying the United States of America. Right? We got a Roman Roman toga, Roman, I don't know what do you call that? Rosemary, whatever I don't know what that is. The little leaf hat, whatever. It's Roman, regardless. It's definitely Rome, right? The superscription is question mark. Is that not Roman? And they said unto him, Caesar. Hey, that was looking like a Caesar to me. So.
I'm going to teach you something important about money using these pennies. Now, one stack of pennies weighs 314 and the other weighs 255 grams. Now, they're both stacks of 100 pennies each. Well, why does one stack weigh 59 grams more than the other? So let's take the lighter stack, take a penny, file it down, reveal a silvery metal, which happens to be zinc. Let's take a penny from the other stack, file that down, which reveals a metal, which is copper. Now, pennies are supposed to be made out of copper, but why are they made out of zinc and plated copper? Let's find out. The price of zinc per pound is $1.45 US. The price of copper per pound is $3.74. And knowing that a pound is 453 grams, we plug in the numbers and we do cross multiplications to find out the actual value of the metal. What we find out is that $1 worth of pennies in copper is actually worth $2.59. That's why the Treasury decided to mint them out of zinc instead ever since 1982. The point of the story is that money's losing its value, but nobody wants you to know that, otherwise they wouldn't have covered up this penny that's to make it look like it's copper. TracksNYC.com for all your gold chain needs. I'm going to teach you something important about money using these pennies. The Roman currency in the 3rd century AD. In modern America, the government issues money to serve as a medium of exchange and value storage throughout the national economy. The Roman Empire, by contrast, minted coins for one purpose and one purpose only, to pay its own expenses. The emperors recognized that it was a good thing to have money circulating through the provinces, not least because it made taxes easier to collect. But the nature and the number of the coins they issued were always determined by their financial obligations. The emperors had many sources of income. The most important was taxation, levied both directly, in the form of land and poll taxes, and indirectly, through customs duties and taxes on inheritances, auctions, and the manumission of slaves. Tax revenue was supplemented by the income from properties owned directly by the imperial house, which included everything from estates to marble quarries to tenements in Rome. The revenues produced by taxation, the imperial estates, and the occasional war were balanced, and sometimes dwarfed, by expenditures. The emperors had to pay a small but elite bureaucracy. They had to finance massive building projects. They had to sponsor gladiatorial combats and beast hunts. They had to subsidize the Egyptian grain barges that fed the city of Rome. And above all, they had to pay the troops. By ancient standards, the Roman army was enormous. The almost 500,000 men who were permanently under arms by the early 3rd century represented a colossal investment and a gargantuan burden. Soldiers were paid well, earning about as much each year as a skilled craftsman, and officers were paid much better, to the point that their salaries alone accounted for almost a quarter of the total payroll. In addition to wages, the emperors had to meet the costs of provisioning the troops, which could rise exponentially in times of war. Although it's impossible to calculate the budget of the Roman Empire with anything like precision, a few estimates have been made. The most comprehensive of these suggests that, in the middle of the 2nd century, the annual expenditures of the imperial government averaged around 1 billion sestertii. Of this, something like 700 million sestertii, that is, about 70%, went to the army. To pay the troops and meet their other obligations, the emperors minted coins. The gold coin, the aureus, was used for high-value transactions and to store wealth. But it was the silver coin, the denarius, that was the true core of the monetary system, and the medium in which troops and officials were usually compensated. For almost 2.5 centuries, the Roman monetary system, anchored by the denarius, was remarkably stable. But even at the best of times, imperial expenditures tended to exceed tax revenue. To make up the difference, the emperors relied on new gold and silver from mines and successful wars. When these supplies fell short, there were only 2 possible solutions: deferring payment
always dangerous since unpaid soldiers were mutinous soldiers, or debasing the currency, making coins, in other words, that contained less gold and silver. There were a few episodes of debasement in the early empire. After the Great Fire of Rome, for example, Nero reduced the weight and fineness of the aureus. The silver content of the denarius, likewise, fell slowly but steadily after the reign of
Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. And I beheld another beast, right? Because Daniel basically prophesied about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had about the statue man, which that's what he made, saying basically to bow down to the statue man that had 2 legs, 2 feet, right? Thighs, torso, arms, chest, and a head, right? And the head represent Babylonian Empire. The arms and the chest represented the Medo-Persian Empire, right? The stomach and the thigh represented the Greek Empire, and then the legs and the feet represent the Roman Empire, right? But that thing had 2 legs. So this is going to go into that because it's saying what and I beheld another beast came up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, right, symbolizing power, right? Horn. And he spake as a dragon, right? And the 2 horns would basically be, you had the Roman and you had the Greek Empire, right? And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, right? Whose deadly wound was healed, right? Dealing with the Roman Empire, right? Because Rome fell, but now Rome is back in the form of what? NATO, EU, and America, right? And then, the money system is falling, right? And so they're going to come in with their new money system. It says, Revelations 13:16, and he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or hands, plural, right? Because when you go into 14, it tells you hands. 14:9, he says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man, anybody, so man or woman, child, worship the beast, right, which is this last beast, this Roman beast, right, which goes into their system, their their financial, medical, because all that's all together. Because as you see, even this so-called medical thing has gotten political, right? Which the same thing with their money and their medical system is all a political, which is really basically the way they want to go. So it says that worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. So it could be either right hand or left hand, right? So it says, he calls both all, small, young, old, rich, poor, free, bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that haveth the mark, which you can already kind of tell that's where it was going with the CV19, because they were pushing to the point that if you didn't have that thing, you couldn't go shopping. Which the next level is what, digital, right? Which, because really, even with that, they were basically having you put it in your app in your phone, right? Which the next thing has to be within your physical body, so you can't throw it, because you could throw your phone, you can lose your phone, but you won't be able to lose the charagma that is engraved inside you with digital information, right? Because since we're in a digital age, right? Save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, which they already had the what's it called? HR 666, something like that. Here is wisdom. Let him that haveth understanding count the number of the beast, for it is 6. Here is wisdom. Let him that haveth understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 666, which would be 666. Which, even in those so-called masks, the mask was had the 666 in it. So yeah, call law Yum Yahal Bashim Yahweh Basham Rakal. Yeah, this is Rome all over again. And so want to give all praise and honor, glory to Yahweh and his only begotten son Yahweh Shai, Basham Rakal. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who do well, to all the Akim in the four winds, to the Akim that's who phenotype may look like another nation, and to all the sisters, the Aquafium, who is in the truth and sincerity, meekness, under their leadership of their husband, and death to America.